This was the first Akira Kurosawa movie that I ever watched. It's called Ron, and it came out in 1985. It's a war drama, and I was very confused. This is regarded as the greatest film ever made. So I'm the problem, right? Like, maybe I wasn't paying enough attention while watching it. So I watched another movie, and another, and another. I didn't enjoy any of them, and I was confused. It wasn't interesting to me. I thought the acting was bad. I thought it moved way too slow. I thought the sound was awful, and the quality of the film overall wasn't very high. I was confused with the different standards of beauty that exist in Japan these days versus what was shown in his movies. So I wondered why this guy was considered one of the best directors in the world. Why is he the master of cinema? Why is he a genius? So many successful directors today have credited him and their movies. Steven Spielberg called him the pictorial Shakespeare of our time. Stanley Kubrick's assistant Anthony Furlin once spoke of Kubrick's admiration for Kurosawa. He was quoted saying, "Stanley thought Kurosawa was one of the great film directors and followed him closely. In fact, I cannot think of any other director he spoke so consistently and admiringly about." The film franchise Star Wars is also heavily indebted to Kurosawa's 1958 movie The Hidden Fortress in terms of its plot and structure. It told of two peasants who are tasked with transporting a man and woman across enemy lines, never knowing that they are royalty. George Lucas once said, "Of Kurosawa's films, my favorite of all time is Seven Samurai." It's really his visual style, and to me that is so strong and unique, and again, a very powerful element of how he tells his stories. This was incredibly hard for me to wrap my head around. I thought that the best director who had, quote, the top best movie had to be a film that I loved. If I don't like, quote, the best movie ever made, do I even like film? I started looking into what it meant to be a genius. I found that it's a person who is exceptionally intelligent or creative. It doesn't mean that everyone who watches his work must love it. It just means that he has done so many new and brilliant things and come up with new and interesting ideas. So much that they are often copied by those who come after him in the industry because he was so successful at it. But what is it exactly that people are finding so genius? It's not quite as obvious when we watch today, given the technology advancements that have been made in film since this time. People have done even more innovative stuff on top of his that make movies even more successful when trying to be entertaining or inflicting emotions onto the viewer. I do, however, want to go over these techniques that have made him so successful. For his early films, even though they were consistently well photographed, Kurosawa usually used standard lenses with a deep focus. He changed his technique starting with Seven Samurai. He used cameras with long lenses. This means that they will have a very narrow and short focal length. He claims that this helps the actors to be captured at a distance from the lens, allowing them space for a more intense portrayal of their character. He also started the idea of using several cameras rolling at once. Typically, filmmakers will film the same scene over and over from different angles to tell the story to the viewer. Kurosawa tried something different to allow his actors a more natural and freeing performance. Using multiple cameras is effective for his movies in two ways. The first one is that the actor won't know which camera image will be used in the final cut. The second is that the actors don't have to act in the same scene multiple times. Kurosawa's films had a lot of fight scenes, which are incredibly difficult to replicate over and over. Using the multiple camera method, they can be sure to have more accurate details in the film. Kurosawa has the ability to tell compelling and universal stories. The themes of his movies can last decades. He often dives into complex human emotions and moral dilemmas, making them relatable to audiences worldwide. Rashomon is a story about how four different people see a murder in four different ways. It challenges the idea of how people lie, whether they are doing it consciously or unconsciously. All viewers can relate to this theme because of the human nature. He experiments with all kinds of universal stories that compels viewers of all ages. Along with transcending generations, he was also able to appeal to different cultures. While his expositions were deeply rooted in Japanese culture, they were appreciated by global audiences. It demonstrated his ability to convey universal themes. Akira has mastered composition and visual storytelling, which makes him legendary. The technique that he uses is he doesn't leave any empty spaces on the screen. He is very purposeful when creating a setup in the camera. Everything is on the screen for a reason, and if there is a blank space, it can be used to evict emotion or suspense for the viewer. The images stick in your head when you think about certain scenes. He was an artist as a child, which definitely helps in the images that he puts on the screen. One of the biggest techniques that Akira is known for is his multiple forms of movement in each scene. This makes them visually entertaining. It tells a story without any dialogue, which is essentially the point of a moving picture. He would prefer to tell a story visually rather than having the characters explain everything. Whether it's in the weather, people, or nature, there is always multiple forms of movement in each scene. Most directors prefer to stay in one particular genre. Many directors have their individual style so that viewers can recognize when a specific person is responsible for a movie. While Akira also has a style, it can be more difficult to tell which movies are his. His filmography spans a wide range of genre. It is able to show his versatility as a filmmaker. Kurosawa's impact on world cinema is immeasurable. Many contemporary filmmakers cite him as a significant influence on their work. Japanese cinema became of great interest to Western audiences. They provided new and exciting methods of storytelling, very rarely seen in Hollywood or other international film industries. I was blinded by the over-the-top, unrealistic acting, the stories that are aggressively different from anything I have ever seen, and the number of men who continue to make the same mistake over and over. Deeply rooted in these films are genius techniques, both with storytelling and visual entertainment, that can be used for the rest of cinematic history. I learned that viewers don't have to like the content they're watching to appreciate it. Even if something doesn't feel completely successful in your point of view, it can still be overall a successful technique. In an attempt to find information for this project, I have made a discovery that will help my cinematic journey in the future.